Hey everybody. So last episode we talked about the SS Atlantis, a concrete steamship that ended her long and arduous existence at the bottom of the Cape May Inlet in the 1920s. The Atlantis and its sister ships may not have been huge hits in their own time, but with the steady march of years has come that very particular brand of notoriety and value that's born only from extreme rarity and age. The venerable, the alarmingly scarce, and the exceptionally unusual just seem to fascinate us. In short, if something's old, rare, weird, or some combination of the three, you can damn well bet somebody's going to be real interested in it. For me, at least, toy collecting has always been one of the most fascinating manifestations of this, and a truly bizarre story from the annals of the hobby has somewhat recently been brought to my attention by a helpful viewer. A tale involving blurry photos, lines of 80s children's merchandise, and the country of Finland. Let's talk about black tracks. This is a story about Transformers, but even bearing that in mind, the story, while not impenetrable, is a little hard to get into if you don't understand the context in which it took place. So, in preparation, here is a brief summary of the events that allowed this saga to unfold. Now, as many of you may know, Transformers was, and still in a sense is, a media franchise created in the mid-1980s primarily to sell toys to children. This is not in any way a new or unique phenomenon, especially for the 80s. The decade saw Mattel's Masters of the Universe with accompanying action figures that mostly look like characters from the show, Hasbro's original run My Little Pony with its affiliated line of very sad-looking horses, even the Care Bears, who are owned by a greeting card company, if you didn't know. But Transformers is fairly unique amongst its brethren thanks to the fact that, technically, the toy line predates the franchise by several years. In 1974, Japanese toy company Takara began manufacturing a line of action figures titled Microman, based on molds originally designed for Japanese distribution of G.I. Joe. The storyline for the products would eventually come to state that the Micromen were alien warriors from a tiny version of Earth who were actually just that small, and were disguising themselves as action figures while visiting our planet. With its experimental aesthetic and penchant for swappable parts, Microman was a hit in Japan, and would continue to be so throughout the 70s. So much so that in 1980, the line would inspire a more complex series of figures known as Diaclone. The gimmick of the series was robots, piloted of course by tiny plastic humans that could transform into all manner of futuristic vehicles and machines, then turn right back into their robot forms with a little finagling. Around 1982, Takara introduced the appropriately named Car Robots subline for Diaclone, foregoing the trite spaceships and giant insects for the infinitely more thrilling Lamborghini Countach and Toyota Hilux N40. See where this is going? Despite its success, Diaclone was very much a national brand, seeing very little popularity when released in Europe and even less in North America. That was until 1983, when representatives from Hasbro Industries encountered a set of Diaclone toys at the Tokyo Toy Show, and signed a deal with Takara that would go on to define a generation. While Diaclone continued production in Japan, Hasbro took over production in the US and began manufacturing under the powerful new Transformers name. Almost every first-gen Transformers toy was an almost exact reproduction of an earlier Diaclone one, albeit with modified branding. A tie-in TV show was birthed in 1984, and the rest was history. Now, what does this all have to do with collecting? Well, in the current market, 1984 Transformers releases can sell for upwards of $1,000. And remember, Takara's pre-Transformers Diaclones were basically unheard of outside Japan, so for any American collector, a Diaclone predecessor to a later Transformers toy is going to be rarer and therefore worth even more. A Diaclone Datsun Turbo car robot, for example, will go for significantly more than a Transformers Generation 1 Blue Streak, despite them basically being the same toy with color variations. But even more highly sought after are the subset of Diaclones shipped off to Europe in the early 1980s, representing a very brief period after the beginning of the line, but before the Transformers deal. These were often shipped with exclusive branding or localized names and are considered exceedingly rare. Hell, some of them even went essentially unknown for decades until being discovered in the 2000s. Whenever a new one pops up, there's traditionally a scramble amongst collectors to be the first to get their hands on it. And with that, enter Fumihiko Akiyama. Akiyama is, or was, I genuinely do not know if this man yet lives, a pillar of the early 2000s Transformers hobbyist community. A self-published franchise virtuoso, Akiyama wrote several seminal works of Transformers reference material, was said to have worked directly with Takara, and most significantly, possessed one of the most extensive Diaclone collections known to exist. Rare variants, limited time products, promotional vehicles, you name it, and this guy probably had it. And it's with this collection that the mystery truly begins. Following the conclusion of BotCon 2000 in Japan, a convention Akiyama had organized that is exactly what it sounds like, he published this blurry photo featuring a portion of his collection. Now, there's something strange about this photo. Can you spot it? Chances are, if you're not an active Transformers collector, you probably can't. It's this. Second row from the top, third from the right. A black Corvette Stingray. Any Transformers collector worth their salt recognized the model, the car form of the 1985 Generation 1 Transformers toy known as Trax, coveted on its own thanks to its age and rarity, and of course inheriting from an even more valuable Diaclone model, which this specific car most likely was. But that wasn't the problem. It was the color. Hobbyists scoured their old catalogs, scrubbed through online databases, and turned their own collections upside down, but the facts were clear. Neither Hasbro nor Takara had ever manufactured a black Trax, at least not as far as anyone could tell. The model had only ever been offered in red or blue, no matter the manufacturer or locale, and with this in mind, hobbyists immediately got to speculating. Was it real? Fake? A factory defect? Some one-off promo item that was never advertised? Questions began to fly, and Akiyama, for his part, wasn't particularly helpful. All the collector would say was that he had purchased the toy at a UK convention in the late 90s, and that, strangely, it was not a Diaclone, dismissing claims that it was a European exclusive manufactured by Italian company GIG. This conflicted somewhat with a retrospective recently published in Japanese toy magazine Gangu Jinsei, featuring what appeared to be the same toy, describing it as not released in Japan, but still listing it alongside other rare Diaclone models. And thus theorizing continued unabated. This could be one of the most fascinating collector finds of the entire decade, if only anyone could figure out what the hell it actually was. And this theorizing would go on to little effect for around 4 years. Akiyama's black Trax remained the only known instance to exist, if it even was a distinct model of its own, and no information on the toy could be found. More confusion was added to the pile when, in 2002, Takara released an extremely limited run of the original Trax mold in black as part of a magazine sweepstakes. But then, in June of 2004, something strange happened. A seller reached out to an online Transformers dealer named Morgan Evans, claiming to be in possession of a Diaclone black Trax that he'd owned since childhood. This seller was not from Japan or the United States, nor was he from Italy or even the UK, where Akiyama claimed to have obtained his copy. The seller, along with this now second known to exist toy, originated in Finland. I want to reiterate that the toy did not end up in Finland. It was born there. The seller claimed that he had received the toy as a child in the 80s and had grown up with it before deciding to sell it in adulthood. This didn't make a huge amount of sense to collectors, considering that, as mentioned before, Diaclones were sold almost exclusively in Japan, with small enclaves in Southern Europe and North America. But then things started to click into place. You see, earlier that year, a mysterious instance of a Diaclone grapple truck had surfaced in Japan and caused a fair bit of confusion. The mold was undoubtedly an original Japanese one, but the box resembled the Italian GIG localized packaging, and some choice text on the box was in what else but Finnish. Upon rediscovering this info, hobbyists re-examined the vendors in attendance at the 1998 BotCon, around the time Akiyama claimed to have come across his artifact, and discovered that one amongst the legions of sellers had been a Finnish toy dealer. By 2005, once a 30-second 1984 Finnish TV ad had been discovered, and another Black Tracks, this time with box, had emerged from the ether of obscurity, a semi-conclusive answer was pinned down. In the early to mid-80s, a Finnish convenience store chain called R-Kioski, which maintains bastions in Estonia and Lithuania, somehow struck a deal with Takara to distribute a hyper-limited line of Diaclones within their store walls. The fact that this deal and the promotion it enabled even existed was almost entirely unknown, both at its inception and in the decades following, but Takara very much did manufacture a small collection of specialty Diaclones to be sent to Finland and stocked on R-Kioski shelves for a short period in 1984. This made the R-Kioski Diaclones, Black Tracks obviously included, not just a regional exclusive or even a country exclusive, but a store exclusive, likely giving rise to the frightening scarcity of the toy in years to come. Now, in the years since, the rarity of the toy has decreased slightly. At last count, an additional 10 have been unburied since 2005, and moreover, it's not even the most rare of the R-Kioski exclusives to be discovered. A really unintentionally funny pamphlet written in both English and Finnish, which came packaged with Black Tracks, mentions a handful of its sibling vehicles, many of which have quite literally not been found in 20 years of searching. These days, a Generation 1 1985 Transformers Trax in good condition will sell for over $1,000. A Diaclone Trax will likely sell for more, and a Finnish Black Trax, well, it's not like anyone in possession of one would be overeager to see it sold in the first place. The toy is so sought after that in recent-ish years, people have even tried to counterfeit it. In 2012, a seller attempted to pawn off a fake Black Tracks at a BotCon event for close to $3,000. Thankfully, it went unpurchased and was quickly identified as a counterfeit by diligent observers, which is great because I honestly cannot imagine the shame of getting conned out of a month's salary by a fake Transformer. And with that, the mystery of Black Tracks was tentatively solved. A Finnish convenience store exclusive built by a pre-Transformers Japanese toy company that the entire world collectively forgot about until a single hobbyist uploaded a photo of his collection. If the photo had never been published, it's entirely likely that Akiyama's Black Tracks would still be the only one in collector hands. A piece of an admittedly very strange and shockingly obscure history, but a piece of history nonetheless. Despite its uncountable flaws, I really do quite like the world we live in my own way, and it's little things like this that really remind me of why. And with that, thanks for watching. Hey everybody, I know I've been doing these like State of the Union things way too much. I promise this is probably going to be like the last one or maybe the second to last one. I'm just here to say that merchandise was delayed significantly for a variety of different reasons, but it's nothing really to worry about. And in theory, if all goes well, everything should be released in a week or two, maybe a little bit longer. I'm working on what I think is a very cool promotional video for it, and I hope you guys will enjoy it too. And yeah. In addition to that, I've opened up yet another side channel. This one is specifically for music that I've used in videos. Some of you may have noticed this by now, but I've been trying to transition from using external music from like video games and Pilot Red Sun and Incompetech and things like that to exclusively music that I've made, because I feel like it sort of makes the channel stand a little bit stronger on its own, and it is less of a risk of like videos getting copyright claimed at some point in the future. And so as like a corollary to this, I'm opening up a channel called Captain Caribbean Music Repo that is quite literally just going to be raw uploads of basically every song that I consider like semi-video worthy from the past 3 or 4 years. They'll be up completely for free. They'll have download links if that's at all possible. And of course, as always, they're 100% royalty free for anybody to use for whatever they'd like. I'm just letting you guys know, in the future, I'm probably going to be linking every song that I use in a video in the description to the corresponding music repo upload, the same way that Retro Gaming Now does on his videos, which is a model that I think is really cool. And yeah, that's basically it. Hope you guys have a good day, and I'll see you later. Bye.